Extremely excited. Our sales are tracking better than last year, just shy of about 20%. So we're very proud of that, very happy with that.
Novak Djokovic walking onto a court in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, just days before the U.S. Open. It sounds almost impossible. It's not the kind of matchup tennis fans typically picture. But according to the man running the tournament, it's exactly the kind of moment he's dreaming about before he steps away from his job for good. Jeff Ryan, the tournament director of the Winston-Salem Open, has opened up about what would be, in his words, the ultimate signing. Not just for the event, not just for the city, but possibly for Djokovic himself. Here's the situation. Winston-Salem sits in one of the toughest spots on the entire ATP calendar. It runs the week right before the U.S. Open, which means it's traditionally used by players as a tune-up. A last chance to find rhythm, sharpen the serve, and get some real match play in before heading to Flushing Meadows. But here's the catch. The top players almost never show up. Why would they? That final week before a Grand Slam is usually reserved for rest, private practice, and a parade of sponsor appearances and media commitments in New York City. The biggest names in the sport are either recovering, preparing, or already wrapped up in USTA Fan Week events. Winston-Salem, historically, just isn't built to pull in the top 20. This year is no exception. Right now, the projected top seeds heading into the tournament are Luciano Darderi, Arthur Rinderknech, Alejandro Tabailo, and Ignacio Buse. Solid, competitive players, no doubt, but not exactly the star power that turns heads outside the sport. And Ryan knows that could still shift depending on how things play out at the Cincinnati Masters just before it. So, where does Djokovic fit into any of this? That's the part that makes this story interesting. Ryan isn't just fantasizing about ticket sales or media buzz, though he'd take both. He's thinking bigger. He believes if Djokovic ever did walk through Winston-Salem, even once, the ripple effect would go far beyond a single tournament week. It would touch the whole community. And more than that, Ryan thinks it might actually mean something to Djokovic too. Think about what Novak's tennis life has looked like for the past 2 decades. Center court at the Australian Open, Roland Garros under the lights, Wimbledon's hallowed lawns, the roar of packed Masters, 1,000 stadiums from Indian Wells to Miami to Rome. He has lived his entire career inside the biggest arenas the sport has to offer, in front of massive crowds, with cameras and pressure following his every step. Winston-Salem would be the exact opposite of all that. Smaller crowds, a tighter, closer, almost hometown feel. And Ryan believes that shift, even briefly, could give Djokovic something genuinely different, something he rarely gets to experience anymore. There's also the connection to Wake Forest University, which sits right at the heart of this tournament's identity. Ryan has talked about how proud the event is of that relationship and how much he'd want Djokovic to see it firsthand. Novak has always had a reputation for being curious. He enjoys discovering new places, new cultures, new environments outside the usual tennis bubble. Winston-Salem, with its charm and its deep university ties, seems like exactly the kind of place that could catch his interest if the timing and circumstances ever aligned. But let's be honest about where things really stand. Djokovic is deep into the final stretch of his career. He's chasing history, chasing records, chasing that 25th major title that keeps slipping just out of reach. His schedule, especially in the weeks surrounding the U.S. Open, is built around recovery and peak performance, not detours to smaller tour stops, no matter how appealing they might sound. Realistically, the chances of him showing up at Winston-Salem before he eventually retires are slim. Ryan himself seems to understand that too. Still, hearing him talk about it, you get the sense this isn't just idle wishful thinking. It's personal. Ryan has spent years building this tournament, working to give it an identity within a crowded tennis calendar, and there is something poetic about the fact that his biggest dream isn't about ticket revenue or headlines. It's about creating one small moment that could mean something to a legend of the sport and to the community that has supported this event year after year. In his own words, Ryan admitted that Winston-Salem simply isn't a top 20 type of event, and he's fully aware of why. The top players are either committed elsewhere, resting up, or tied into New York's promotional machine. But he said if he could somehow play a part in bringing someone like Novak through Winston-Salem before he steps down, it would leave an incredible mark on this community. And he didn't stop there. He said he genuinely believes it could leave an impression on Djokovic as well. Just seeing a tournament like this one, a city this beautiful, and a partnership with a university as respected as Wake Forest. For Ryan, that kind of moment would be, in his description, over the top and over the moon. It's a small story on the surface. A tournament director talking about a player who probably won't ever show up. But underneath it, there's something bigger going on. It's about legacy. It's about the gap between the massive, high-pressure world Djokovic operates in and the smaller, close-knit tennis communities that rarely get to share a stage with players of his caliber. It's about one man's hope that before his time running this event comes to an end, he might get to witness something that, on paper, shouldn't really happen. Will it actually happen? Almost certainly not. The math doesn't favor it. Djokovic's priorities are elsewhere, and his career clock is ticking louder every season. But Ryan's comments say something about what these smaller tournaments mean to the people who build them, and what it would take, even just once, to turn an ATP 250 event into a moment people talk about for years. So, maybe Djokovic never sets foot in Winston-Salem. Maybe this remains nothing more than a tournament director's dream, spoken out loud in an interview, destined to stay a hypothetical. But for one man who has poured years into building something meaningful in North Carolina, just imagining that possibility, even for a moment, seems to be enough.